Hello and welcome and namaste from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Coming up over the next 30 minutes. Prime Minister Narendra Modi unveils the Keynes Semiconductor plant at Gujarat Sanand, India's second chip manufacturing unit to go into production. The UAE is on high alert after multiple drone attacks targeting Dubai and Sharjah. Huge Kuwaiti oil tanker struck off Dubai's coast. Blaze said to be under control. Average US gasoline prices crossed $4 a gallon. Eurozone inflation jumps 2.5% in March. Israel's Netanyahu says the war is beyond the halfway point in terms of its mission, but not its time frame. And Iran's Parliament Security Committee approved Strait of Hormuz management plan, which imposes a toll on vessels passing through the key oil and gas route. Tensions in West Asia continue to escalate sharply. In Iran's Zanjan, US-Israeli strikes have killed 4 people and left over 24 injured, with the prominent Shia religious site, the Grand Husseiniya, suffering significant damage. Parts of its dome and minarets were hit in what Iranian authorities described as a targeted morning attack. Meanwhile, in Israel, the impact was felt in Petah Tikva, where missile shrapnel caused damage across multiple neighborhoods. Emergency teams responded swiftly as burnt vehicles and debris littered the streets. Several people sustained minor injuries. Reports suggest debris from Iranian missiles, including cluster warheads, fell across key urban centers such as Tel Aviv and Bnei Brak. Also, the UAE is on high alert after multiple drone and missile incidents near Dubai and Sharjah, with air defense systems intercepting several threats as the West Asia conflict enters its second month. Authorities reported minor damage and injuries while stepping up security and precautionary measures across the country. A Kuwaiti oil tanker, Al Salmi, was struck by a drone off Dubai's coast shortly after midnight while carrying crude oil. All 24 crew members were said to be safe and no oil spill has been reported, though the incident raised concerns over maritime security and energy supply routes. A drone also hit a telecom facility in Sharjah, while debris from interceptions caused a small fire in Dubai, injuring 4 people. Air defenses intercepted multiple missiles and drones, prompting schools to shift online till the 17th of April, airlines to issue advisories, and authorities to announce a 1 billion dirham relief package amid rising oil prices. US President Donald Trump has issued a fresh threat to Iran, saying the US will destroy Iran's electricity plants, oil wells and Kurg Island unless there's a peace deal. Trump wrote on his Truth social platform that while the United States was in serious discussions with a more reasonable regime in Tehran, if an agreement was not forthcoming, Washington would set about completely obliterating all of their electric generating plants, oil wells and Kurg Island. Trump also threatened to attack desalination plants that supply clean water in Iran. And Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said on Monday that the war on Iran had achieved more than half its aims without putting a timeline on when it would end. In an interview to a US broadcaster, the Israeli PM expressed confidence in the progress of the joint military campaign, emphasizing that significant steps have been taken to dismantle Iran's military and nuclear capabilities. According to the Israeli Prime Minister, US and Israeli forces have already struck critical components of Iran's war-making potential, including missile systems, weapons factories and personnel linked to its nuclear program. Netanyahu stressed that the operation is aimed not only at weakening Iran in the short term, but also at preventing a far more dangerous future. While Netanyahu did not provide a specific timeline for the conclusion of the operation, he projected continued momentum in favor of the US-Israel alliance. The average price of gasoline at US pumps has soared past the $4 a gallon mark. This has happened on Tuesday, and this is the highest in 4 years on the back of the Iran war. The average price was $4.018 per gallon as of Tuesday. In mid-2022, prices soared to $5 a gallon in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic and after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The US primarily imports oil from Canada and Mexico, so it is not heavily impacted by any shortages in West Asia, but prices have risen because of globally connected energy markets. Iran's Parliament Security Committee on Monday approved the Strait of Hormuz Management Plan, which includes measures to impose tolls on vessels passing through the strategic waterway. According to the Iranian state media, IRIB, a member of the National Security Commission announced that the plan was formally approved, detailing key areas of focus including security arrangements for the strait, ship safety, environmental protection, financial arrangements, and the implementation of a rial-based toll system. Also, according to reports, the plan also explicitly bans passage of American and Israeli vessels, reinforces the sovereign role of Iran and its armed forces, and outlines cooperation with Oman in establishing the legal framework for the strait. Additionally, it prohibits passage for countries participating in unilateral sanctions against Iran. The approved measures come amid ongoing conflict in West Asia between Iran and the US-Israeli coalition, currently in its second month, and reflect Tehran's efforts to assert control over one of the world's most critical maritime choke points, through which around a fifth of global oil shipments transit. Also, Iran on Tuesday issued a fresh warning of retaliation amid escalating tensions with the United States, even as Washington claims progress in talks with Tehran. In a post on social media, Iran's Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bakir Ghalibaf said that the country would respond strongly to any attacks. Ghalibaf warned if they hit one, they'll take several back, adding that Iran, under the leadership of the Supreme Leader, would make its enemies regret the aggression and reclaim its rights. Let's now get you a look at some other stories making news around the world as well. In the United States, singer Brandy has been honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in Los Angeles, recognizing her lasting impact in music and entertainment. Calling the honor a symbol of legacy, Brandy reflected on her decades-long career and influence across generations. In France, the Eiffel Tower lit up to the music of Celine Dion to mark her return to the stage after 6 years. One of the world's best-selling artists, Dion is known for iconic hits like My Heart Will Go On and her powerful vocals. She's set to perform 10 concerts at La Défense Arena in September and October, marking a major comeback. In the Netherlands, Deacon Jos Walke has discussed the discovery of a skeleton in a church in Maastricht that could belong to D'Artagnan, the figure who inspired the Three Musketeers, a classic 1844 French novel. The remains were uncovered during repair work following a partial floor collapse in the city where D'Artagnan died centuries ago. In El Salvador, the week leading to Easter began with the centuries-old Talsigines ritual in Tesijepeque, where men dressed as devils symbolically whip participants seeking repentance. The tradition represents the struggle between good and evil and draws visitors from across the country as part of Holy Week observances. Myanmar's junta chief Min Aung Hlaing has been elected as vice president by the lower house, moving closer to becoming the country's president. He secured 247 out of 260 votes, according to parliament officials. The development comes after tightly controlled elections and follows his rule since the 2021 coup that ousted Aung San Suu Kyi. Parliament officials said 3 vice presidents will be chosen, with one set to become president through a parliament-wide vote. The move comes after Min Aung Hlaing stepped down as army chief and was nominated for the post. The elections have faced criticism, with watchdogs warning the new government could remain a military proxy amid ongoing conflict. in the country. Amid mounting concerns over the impact of social media on children's health and safety, several countries switched to the ban on the usage of social media among teens, but the implementation signaling possible enforcement action as concerns grow over weak compliance of the law. Here's more in this report.
Moves to bar younger teens from social media across Europe and Asia are going well. What started with Australia has now spread to more than a dozen capitals where leaders are seizing on issues raised by childhood scrolling to appeal to parents across the political spectrum. But are social media giants failing to comply with the new rules? Let us understand in brief. The Australian Internet Regulator said it was investigating 5 of the biggest social media platforms for suspected breaches of its new under-16 ban. This is the strongest signal yet that the companies may face enforcement action. 3 months since the landmark laws came into effect, Australia's online safety watchdog has found that a substantial portion of Australian children were still scrolling banned platforms. Tech companies face fines of up to $33.9 million under the laws. More than 5 million accounts belonging to underage Australian users have been removed since the laws came into effect. Social media platforms are facing similar scrutiny in other countries also. Indonesia summoned officials from Meta and Google over non-compliance with social media restrictions for children under 16 that went into full effect last week. France Senate is set to vote on Tuesday on a landmark bill seeking to ban social media in France to under 15-year-olds. If it passes in the Senate, it will be subject to a vote in the lower house before being promulgated as law. President Emmanuel Macron has pointed to social media as one factor to blame for violence among young people. The recent crackdown highlights that some platforms did not use age inference, which estimates age based on someone's online activity, and some only used age assurance measures like photo-based checks after a user tried to change their age rather than at sign-up. Bureau Report, DD India.
And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. The President of India presides over the Nalanda University's second convocation ceremony during her Bihar visit. And Divya and Vaishali settle for a draw in round 2 of FIDE candidates. Pragnananda stays in joint lead in the open section.
स्वागत आहे टू मैग्नेटिक महाराष्ट्र.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Tuesday inaugurated the Kaynes Technology Semiconductor plant in Gujarat Sanand, marking a major milestone in India's semiconductor mission. This facility is the second semiconductor plant in the country and is being hailed as a crucial step towards strengthening India's position in the global semicon sector. This will boost India's efforts of emerging as a leader in futuristic technologies and innovation. With the inauguration, commercial production will now commence at the plant, focusing on the manufacturing of advanced intelligent power modules, a development seen as a significant achievement in India's technological journey. Prime Minister Modi received a warm welcome at the event. In his address, the PM emphasized the global impact of India's manufacturing initiatives, saying the resounding success of Make in India, Make for the World initiative will reach every corner of the globe.
सानंद और सिलिकॉन वैली के बीच नया ब्रिज सा बन गया है। कैलिफोर्निया की कंपनी के लिए सानंद का ये प्लांट इंटेलिजेंट पावर मॉड्यूल्स दे रहा है। मुझे बताया गया है कि यहां बनने वाले प्रोडक्ट्स का एक बड़ा हिस्सा पहले ही एक्सपोर्ट के लिए बुक हो चुका है। सानंद में बनने वाले मॉड्यूल्स अमेरिका की कंपनियों तक पहुंचेंगे और वहां से पूरी दुनिया को पावर देंगे। मेक इन इंडिया, मेक फॉर द वर्ल्ड के मंत्र की सफलता की गूंज दुनिया के कोने-कोने में पहुंचेगी।
Prime Minister Modi also interacted with operators and engineers at the semicon facility in Sanand. Earlier, on the occasion of Mahavir Jayanti, Prime Minister Modi inaugurated the Samrat Samprati Museum at Koba Tirth in Gandhinagar. The museum is dedicated to Jain history and the life of Samrat Samprati, his rule and the message of non-violence. Named after the grandson of Ashok and a revered figure in Jain tradition known for his commitment to non-violence and propagation of Jainism, the museum showcases the rich historical, cultural and spiritual legacy of Jainism. The museum preserves and displays centuries-old rare relics, Jain artifacts and traditional heritage collections. These include intricately crafted stone and metal idols, miniature paintings, silver chariots, coins and ancient manuscripts, all exhibited across 7 grand galleries. The Prime Minister also met Acharya Shri Padmasagar Surishwarji Maharaj at Kuba and Gandhinagar on the occasion. He also addressed a gathering and referred to the prevailing global instability and unrest. The PM stressed that the heritage and message embodied in this museum hold profound significance not just for India but for all humanity.
आज दुनिया में जिस तरह के हालात हैं, जिस तरह विश्व अस्थिरता और अशांति की आग में झुलस रहा है, इस म्यूजियम की विरासत, इसका संदेश केवल भारत ही नहीं बल्कि पूरी मानवता के लिए बहुत अहम है।
President Draupadi Murmu is on a visit to Bihar today. She attended the second convocation of Nalanda University in Rajgir. The event marks a key academic and diplomatic gathering. During the ceremony, the President awarded gold medals to 36 students and conferred PhD degrees on 10 scholars, with participation from students of 13 countries, including Argentina, Vietnam, Nepal and Bhutan. While addressing the gathering, the President highlighted the National Education Policy 2020, emphasizing its focus on holistic, multidisciplinary and value-based education.
National Education Policy 2020, there has been a renewed emphasis on holistic, multidisciplinary and value-based education. Our ancient traditions of learning were never confined to rigid boundaries. They encouraged inquiry, dialogue and synthesis. Nalanda must once again embody this spirit, bringing together knowledge systems from across disciplines, and cultures.
Now, a stampede broke out during prayers at Ma Shitla temple in Bihar's Nalanda district on Tuesday, claiming the lives of at least 8 devotees and injuring several others. The incident was triggered by a sudden surge in crowd during worship at the temple premises. Authorities rushed the injured to nearby hospitals, where some are reported to be in a critical condition, raising fears that the death toll could rise further. Prime Minister Modi has expressed grief over the tragedy and announced an ex gratia payment of 2 lakh Indian rupees for the families of the deceased and 50,000 rupees for those who have been injured, along with prayers for their speedy recovery. Legislative Assembly elections in the Union Territory of Puducherry are scheduled for the 9th of April. Voting will be held to elect all 30 members of the State Assembly. DD India's Vishal Baristo gets us more.
The stage is all set for the Puducherry Assembly elections slated for the 9th of April. 30 seats are in fray. BJP, as part of NDA alliance, is contesting on 10 seats. Congress is fighting on 16 seats, while its alliance partner DMK is on 14 seats. Southern film star Vijay's party TVK is also making a debut in these elections, but it is contesting on all 30 seats, and that too alone. With cameraman Sanjay Kumar Jaina in Puducherry, this is Vishal Baristo for DD India.
Now let's take you across to Europe, where the continent's largest economy appears to be wedged between 2 superpowers. Germany finds itself in a tight spot between the US and China and cannot decouple itself from either. But the dependence runs deeper than what you would normally expect. To unpack this, we're joined by Deutsche Welle's Warda Imran from Berlin. Good evening to you, Warda. Trade and ties between the US and China have been hostile for a while. How exposed is Germany if things turn sour?
Yes, Germany is very much reliant on both the US and China. And here's some proof in numbers. In 2025, the US was Germany's biggest client and top export destination. And China topped the list of German imports. That's according to the German Bureau of Statistics. So really, the German economy depends greatly on these two countries. And a new study by the University of Sussex, which mapped out the exposure in production, supply chain of DAX and MDAX listed companies, found that much of German industry is tied up in these two countries, especially China. Let's look at an example. Now, Siemens, which is Germany's largest conglomerate, leans heavily into the US market. 24% of its total revenue comes from there. The same company gets 12% of its revenue from China, and almost a fifth of its suppliers are also based in the Southeast Asian country. The study concluded that a company such as Siemens, which is so embedded within these two markets, really has no viable decoupling path that won't result in massive losses. So in a nutshell, Germany is extremely exposed if it ever has to pick between these two countries, and still exposed if a trade war ever broke out between the US and China, because Berlin would be caught in the middle.
Thanks a lot for joining us with that update, Warda from Berlin. Now, Apple will celebrate its 50th anniversary on Wednesday, the 1st of April, marking 5 decades since its founding in 1976. From the early breakthrough of the Apple II to the revolutionary Macintosh, Apple played a pivotal role in making personal computing accessible and user-friendly. The company reshaped the entire technology industries with iconic products such as the iPod, the game-changing iPhone, and the versatile iPad. Founded in 1976 by Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak in a modest California garage, Apple's journey from a small startup to a global tech powerhouse is one of the most remarkable success stories in modern history. After Jobs' passing in 2011, CEO Tim Cook led the company's expansion into services and new technologies, making it one of the world's most valuable firms with a market value exceeding $3.5 trillion US. Time now to get you some sporting developments as well. And first, from the ongoing FIDE Candidates 2026 chess tournament in Paphos, Cyprus. In the All India clash in the women's section, Divya Deshmukh and R. Vaishali played out a draw marked by sustained pressure and narrow escapes. Vaishali survived a time scramble, but it was a missed opportunity for Divya, who had the space and initiative but could not convert it into a decisive result. Vaishali will take on Anna Muzichuk, while Divya will now face Alexandra Goryachkina today in round 3. And after his opening round win over high-ranked Anish Giri, Grandmaster R. Pragnananda played out a draw against Wei Yi in round 2 to remain in joint lead of the standings. He will now face Jawahir Sindarov later today. And elsewhere in the open section, Matthias Bluebohm drew with Jawahir Sindarov, while Fabiano Caruana's clash with Anish Giri also ended in a draw. And that's all we have for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS. Just scan the QR code on the screen to download the app right away. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.